Hello, my name is Alexandra Brewster and I'm a naturopath, nutritionist and herbalist. In my past life, a registered nurse and midwife, and at present I'm also studying via the Institute of Functional Medicine in Portland, Oregon, to become a fully certified and qualified functional medicine practitioner. What does that mean? Well, thanks for asking. Basically, it just means that I go more into the nitty-gritty of systems disorder, trying to interpret why your body became unwell in the first place. I guess what your body's trying to tell you. So as I said, my name is Alexandra Brewster. You may have heard me mentioned as Alex, because Angel does speak a little bit about me. And today I'm actually going to speak to you guys about the very distressing disorder called Trichotillomania. Yeah, what a revolting word, hey? It's a difficult word to say. A lot of people, including myself, have trouble with it. So it often gets shortened to just TM. But what the hell is it? Why do we get it? And what can we do about it? So let's get started. So trichotillomania, or let's just call it TM from now on, so I don't stumble over my words. I have enough trouble with that anyway, is a condition where you feel compelled to pull your hair out at the roots. So basically, it gives you a form of comfort and even sort of gives you a little buzz. People really don't know. There's a lot of conjecture what causes it and why we have it. It is linked with an anxiety disorder, but of course it is very distressing because basically you end up with horrible bald patches all over your head, which makes you more anxious and actually makes you more compelled to do it. I guess it's sort of on the line of any repetitive, almost self-harm type behaviors that give you a little dopamine surge. So dopamine is our neurotransmitter of reward. You can get a dopamine reward when you get 1,000 likes on Instagram, if you eat lots of chocolate, or do some sort of repetitive behavior. So it's all along the same sort of lines. But can it actually be classified as a mental condition? Well, here's the thing. What's a mental condition, right? So I mentioned this word dopamine. So dopamine is one of our neurotransmitters, another fancy schmancy word for saying basically one of our chemical messengers in the brain. Well, that actually works on the brain, in the body that works on the brain. But guess what? It isn't just in the brain. And we'll get to that later. But think of our brain. Our brain's amazing. The one thing we must remember about the brain, of course, it is just another organ, isn't it? But the really cool thing about the brain, it's basically one of the only organs, unless we're Wim Hof or somebody fancy like that we can actually control with our thoughts, which is a bit of an oxymoron because that's where our thoughts come from. But you know what I'm trying to get at. It's pretty cool. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is, what is a mental disorder? You know, people often talk about people with anxiety and say, oh, she should snap out of it, or he should snap out of it, and I'll just get on with life. But let's have this scenario. So what happens if, for some reason in our brain, our dopamine receptors aren't as strong as in other people's brains? So we need more dopamine in order to get that little feeling of reward. As I said, it can be anything. It can be someone you love smiling at you, in likes on Instagram, anything like that. You know, that sort of surge of reward. I keep on using that word. But some people's dopamine receptors are blunted, I guess is the word you can say, and they need more and more of it. Then the body tries to put more and more out, and then it's a bit like insulin resistance, I guess, where all of a sudden the cells aren't listening as much, and then you need more and more of it, and you need to redo those behaviors. And of course, the more we redo behaviors, the more we do the behaviors. So there's a saying in functional medicine, neurons, that's our brain cells, neurons that fire together, wire together. So then you're on this little hamster wheel of, oh gosh, I've started pulling my hair out. Oh, it looks really crap, but it makes me feel good. Oh, I better do it some more. Now I've got a bald patch. Now I've got to go to work. I better wear a scarf. Get the picture? So that's what trichotillomania is. Hang on, I was going to say TM, wasn't I? So that's what TM is in a nutshell. So what can we do about it? Or why are our dopamine receptors more blunted, I guess, is another really good question. So the first thing with TM, what we have to try and do is persuade our body not to engage in that repetitive behavior. So there may be some degree of help that you can get from a counselor or a therapist. The other thing that is really good to do, of course, is to get your self-esteem back. So that's when the amazing people like Angel Luciano comes in, because she will make you look pretty. She'll make you look really pretty. She's amazing, and she will fill out those bald patches like she's got a magic wand. So that is a really good start to your healing journey, because all of a sudden you look normal again. So in itself, that's giving your body a little reward. But here's the thing, guys. What if I told you that 95% of our neurotransmitters, including dopamine, are made right here in your gut? Yep, in your gut. So much research is known about the microbiome, which is basically the 10 to the power of 14, which means 14 zeros, cells or microorganisms that live in our gut. Now, one of the things they like to do when they're happy chappies, they communicate with each other. So basically they make these chemicals called dopamine, GABA, serotonin, tyrosine is another one, to have a chat with each other. So actually they don't make it out of the goodness of their hearts, but we have actually learned to use it in our body in order to feed our brain, I guess. But today, for the intents of this video, because I'm verbose enough, so I don't want this to go for hours, we're just going to have a chat about dopamine. And what are the other ones called? Tyrosine. Because of course it gets complicated, and we just have to connect the dots. So basically, when we are, and I remember learning this as a midwife, when we are first conceived, when we're first an embryo after those 8 cells, our body actually goes into layers. And bear with me, because this is important, and it does correspond back to the Trichotillomania, TM. So basically our body starts as an embryo, and there's only 3 layers. They're called the germ layers, the endoderm, the mesoderm, and the ectoderm. And I can remember as a midwife all those years ago thinking, okay, this is cool, but the endoderm, the middle bit, only forms 2 body systems. And you guessed it, it's the gut and it's the brain. So now the researchers know that the gut and the brain are linked like this. And they're linked via a very complicated pathway, the biggest player of which is this vagus nerve. You may have heard of it, the vagus nerve. And researchers last year actually found that when we don't have the right bacteria in our gut, or any bacteria in our gut, or any microorganism in our gut, actually ends up in the cerebral spinal fluid, or the CFS, surrounding our brain. So let me just repeat that, because this is big. So basically, you can actually, if you've got what we call hyperpermeability of the gut, you can actually leak out those microorganisms, and via that vagal nerve, they've got a straight route north to your cerebral spinal fluid, and boom, they're there having a party around your brain. How about that? That's pretty creepy, isn't it? But that's just, all I want to do is show you basically the affirmation that your gut and your brain are really linked, and it's called the gut-brain connection. But the other thing I always say in my clinic is, don't piss off your microbiome, because you're going to feel like rubbish. Well, I might use a different word, but you get the drift. So basically, first clue, if your gut's not right, you're not going to have enough dopamine. And there's one other one I want to talk to about, one other chemical that our gut microbiome makes, and that's tyrosine. All these ridiculous names, hey, I don't know who made them up. Someone who had a sense of humour. So basically, tyrosine is the mid-molecule, because we're all so complicated and all the chemicals in our bodies are so complicated. Tyrosine is the mid-molecule for 2 hormones. One, the hormone or neurotransmitter called dopamine, because dopamine is a hormone, but it's just called neurotransmitter because it's a hormone that works on the brain, right? The other part of the tyrosine, or the other hormone that has the tyrosine as its middle, is thyroxine, or triiodithyronine. So they're your 2 thyroid hormones. So how about this scenario? So of course, TM is a condition of high stress. If you didn't have stress before you got TM, you're going to get stressed because you have TM. Make sense? Of course. So basically, now all of a sudden, your body's going, Tiger, we need more dopamine. So it's flooding into the brain. The dopamine receptors are blunted for whatever reason. As far as I'm aware, there's not a great deal of research about that. And if there is, it doesn't really matter for this tense of this video. And now your body's going, your gut shuts down because you're fighting tigers, because who's got time to digest food when you're going to be a meal yourself, right? And you may not eat the best because your self-esteem's gone in your boots. So then our gut bugs become unhappy. So we're making less dopamine and tyrosine anyway. And then we have this deficiency and the body goes, well, we've got to slow this gal or boy down anyway. So let's rob the tyrosine from the thyroid hormone. Because if nothing else matters than surviving that tiger fight, right? Can you see the problem here? So if you know anything about the thyroid, once your thyroid slows down, we have all sorts of problems with energy, weight gain, and hair loss. Oh my gosh, another hamster wheel. So I think in a nutshell, that's a very quick synopsis of the real deep dive pathophysiology of why we get this condition called TM. Now, the other thing I probably should say is at conception and birth, or at conception, we're dealt this hand of cards called our genes or our DNA, okay? And a lot of people go, oh, yes, well, this is in my genes. You know, I'm going to get this because my mother had it, my father had it, or what have you. Absolutely, the apple never falls far from the tree. But you've just got that card of hands, that hand of cards, I beg your pardon, in your hand. How you play that card is 100% environment. So what does that mean? So if your body's not stressed, you might have the TM gene. If your body's not stressed, if your gut's perfect, if you eat the rainbow and you eat all organic and you're an absolute epitome of health, you're never going to throw that TM card on the table, are you? But then you have to, you especially young girls, it seems to be a real problem. They get a dose of antibiotics, and that's fine. Antibiotics are fine because it's handy not to die of an infection. I get it, which knocks their gut bugs on the head, and they're not eating the best. Then all of a sudden they get on Instagram and go, oh my God, she's had so more likes than me, or what have you, and then that TM card gets played on the table. So that's really the underlying driver. So what can we actually do about it? So we've talked about trying to get some psychological help from a counsellor as well. Have I mentioned that? It's a good idea to get some sort of psychological help from somebody who knows what they're doing to try and break that behaviour pattern. We've talked about the lovely Angel to get your self-esteem back. That is so important, guys. So important. And she does such a great job. But the other thing we need to do is start nourishing our body. So we need to start getting those nutrients in that A, are going to feed our gut bugs, B, that's going to keep our thyroid hormone happy, C, that's going to persuade our body that maybe there's not that many tigers, some of them are pussycats, so we're not going to rob the tyrosine from the thyroid hormone to give it to dopamine. And D, just calm the whole sympathetic nervous system or the tiger fighting response down. So let's just start. With my patients, I say this analogy. Say you've come to see me in the clinic and you say, Alex, I've got a sore bum. And I look at you and I go, oh my gosh, Susan, you're sitting on 16 tacks. No wonder you've got a sore butt. So if you only take one tack away, if you only go to the psychologist or if you only go to Angel, you're still going to have a sore bum because you're still sitting on 14 or 15 tacks, right? What we've got to do is remove all of them or most of them so the bum pain goes away. So that's how I always explain to my patients about what functional medicine's about and how it's a bit of a journey. Because before you actually become symptomatic, that health condition's been bubbling along for some time. So first and foremost, get your self-esteem back by seeing the lovely Angel. Go and see a counsellor or a psychologist. Important, both of them. Then we've got to start nourishing your body. So the first thing we can do is nourish our gut. How do we do that? Well, for the intensive purposes of this video, I would recommend, I have a couple of podcasts. They are free, and I've only made them so to give people the power and the knowledge. So they're on my website, healinghandsipswich.com.au. That's www.healinghandsipswich.com.au, and there's a section called podcasts. And there's several on the gut, but there's one on the gut-brain connection. I haven't actually done one on TM, but that's what this is, I guess. So basically, I have 3 rules in my clinic. 1, only eat food that your great-grandmother would have recognized as food. Because, well, great-grandmother times 8 probably we should say now, because if she didn't recognize it as food, nor will your gut bugs, right? Makes sense. So she wouldn't have recognized all that processed stuff, margarine, canola oil. She would have recognized rainbow food, amazing color, non-processed grains, good organic olive oil and butter, good fats, small fish that aren't polluted, yada, yada, yada. Okay? If you do need help with your nutrition, I'm your girl. Come and see me, make an appointment, we'll go through it. The second rule I have is only eat food that rots. Because if the bugs outside are going to like it, the bugs inside are going to like it. Okay? So happy bugs, happy chappies make tyrosine, dopamine, GABA, and serotonin. So you will be happy as well. And my third rule is that only God is perfect, and even he rested on the 7th day. Because, hey, we do what we can. Stop feeling guilty for what you're doing. You're doing the best you can. Love yourself a little. So they're my 3 rules of Healing Hands, or Alex Brewster's 3 rules. So basically, if you did that, your gut bugs would start making the neurotransmitters again. That would help. But of course, we've got this slight problem of why the dopamine receptors are a little bit blunted. And there's a bit of a suspicion that it's probably a nutritional deficiency. So if you see somebody who knows, it doesn't matter who you see, you certainly come and see me, because I am, I know all this, well, there's a lot of people who know this stuff, but I have a particular interest in it. We will do a few tests, few rudimentary tests. We may need to delve a bit further and do some functional medicine tests as well to determine what nutrients you're lacking that might upset the building blocks of those neurotransmitters or blunt that dopamine response. Does that make sense? And the other thing quickly I probably should talk about is toxicity. So if we have silver fillings in our teeth, if we're eating all sprayed food and we don't bother to wash it, that is certainly going to play havoc with our gut bugs. So basically, that is the nutrition side of it, and it's very simple and it's very complicated. So there's an amazing fellow who I love dearly called Michael Pollan. No, I don't know him personally. He's just one of my crushes, one of my brain crushes, I call them. And he says, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. Am I saying to be a vegetarian? Absolutely not. We need the protein for our hair to grow. We need the zinc for our hair to grow. We need the B12 for our hair to grow. And all of those nutrients are largely found in animal and flesh foods. But we need to increase the diet. We eat too much meat, but we also need to make sure our digestion is correct. And you know what? Only 20% of people with increased intestinal permeability actually have gut symptoms. But interestingly, a lot of people with TM do report symptoms of IBS. How about that? There's a connection, right? The other thing that I have done, because I have such an interest in mental health and female mental health and hormonal health, is because I really feel for you guys. It's gotta suck, right? This condition's gotta suck. So what I've done, I've put together some amazing hair growth formulae. Now, it's not going to decrease the urge, I guess. It may a bit, because I've put some lovely nerve nourishing formula, proteins in that herb formula I've made up, together with some B vitamins that after a quick consult with me, you can access via Angel. Because it's really powerful stuff, we want to make sure that if you are on any medication or you have any other conditions, that it's not contraindicated for you. But what I want to tell you guys is, please, it is not a permanent condition. It's not a permanent condition. Our bodies are awesome. They want to be well and they have a right to be well. And given the right environment, and we're taking one tack out at a time, all of a sudden your hair grows back. Working intensively with counseling, giving you nutrients, sorting your gut out, your hair will grow back and you'll have a lovely head of hair in no time. So hit me up, have a chat. You can connect with me. Angel will put you in contact with me. Get onto my website, please, and listen to the podcasts. They're quite short. The only aim I usually have in them is that I try not to swear. I often don't succeed in that one. And today is the day that you're going to get well, take control of your health and rock it. Have a really good one, guys. I wish you all the best and lots of blessings. Thank you.